Hi, it's Dels here. So today we're going to be talking about a topic that transcends everything that you could see on my channel right now, and pretty much majority of the topics that are going on in the world. And that is the topic of racism. So from the perspective of a Black girl living in the UK who is of Nigerian origin, who was born here and also raised in Nigeria, raised in London, has lived for the past 7 years in Dubai, a completely international perspective. I can tell you now that racism exists everywhere. This is not just a US issue, but we have to really recognize that the plight of our African American brothers and sisters is just unfathomable right now. It's been 400 plus years of slavery. And even here in England, we tend to pretend like slavery didn't happen. So I'm not going to dive into those particular sides of racism right now, but I'm going to talk about the title, Reflections on the Color of My Skin. So that's inspired by a video I saw earlier today by Marcus Brownlee, who is a creator that I've really admired his content for a long time. And also by Joe Franco, who is a Brazilian, American, beautiful, badass businesswoman who I've really enjoyed her content because she primarily talks about travel and entrepreneurship and things like that. And it made me think, I didn't know how to deal this week. This week has been intense, probably one of the most intense weeks of my life. And I'm not out there protesting, but I'm doing my own in my own little way. And the reason why it's like that is because for majority of my life, and for as long as I can remember, especially when I moved back to the UK, it's like you almost repress yourself and to a certain extent your Blackness to fit into certain spaces. So I've been on YouTube off and on now for about 7 years. That's a creative space. I have been in a corporate world now for over 10 years. And I was born Black. And in majority of those spaces, I've always been the one Black person. Sometimes it's deliberate, sometimes it's not. But there is no way that you can navigate those spaces without being conscious of the color of your skin. And I've pretty much experienced majority of the types of racism that you would have seen probably some of your friends and your social media contacts sharing over the past 2 weeks. As Black women, Black men, ethnic minorities, you're just like, it's par for the course, you just deal with it. And you don't want to be that person who is complaining at work, who's raising your tone. But actually what I've realized is that in some of those spaces, what is the most important is for us to actually speak up. And this brings me to the purpose of this video. I don't want to spend the whole time talking about racist experiences that have happened to me because quite frankly, we don't have enough time. However, what I do want to do is share what Black and white and other ethnicities and races can do about racism in whatever spaces they occupy. Because what has been very disappointing to me over the past week is actually realizing that a lot of the people that you're friends with and people who could probably say, oh yeah, I have a Black friend, it's Dels, just are not really riding for you the way that you would expect. We have different definitions of friendships. And I have always, even though I don't talk about this on my channel because it's not particularly relevant, I've always been that person who, if I notice that you have any inkling of racism or the way you treat people is completely off, our friendship is just, it just won't exist. We won't have a friendship. We could work together because we are frankly working for the same institutions, but there will be no level of friendship. But it has been very disappointing to see friends and people that you spent so much time with and you love dearly just coming up with some random on social media, and they're just by the by. So what we're going to do in this video is talk about 3 ways that I think, anyway, they're just my suggestions, that we can move forward from this and actually make this more than just Blackout Tuesday, more than just a social media post, more than just a hype, to actually driving change and inspiring action so that future generations don't have to deal with this. And the first thing I would say is to speak up. And this, like I said, applies to not just Black people, but also white people and everybody in between or around that ambit. Because a lot of the time, Black people, we try and minimize ourselves and our Blackness just to get about in business and in work. Because, I've had situations at work where I'm not even working for a particular department. I do finance, they do something completely different. And I have been called into meetings just to be the token Black girl there because we're trying to close a Nigerian deal. And the first time that happened, I was like, what? Well, maybe if you hired more diverse people, you wouldn't have to pluck random people who are not even working on your transactions to just be the token in your meeting room. And of course, it's very difficult in those types of situations to speak up because, I mean, even I didn't know what was happening until the meeting was over. And I was like, why am I being called into this meeting? And that's just like a very basic example, right? But also for my white friends and anyone else watching this video, it's very important to speak up, particularly right now, because a lot of friends have shared with me that their companies haven't sent any messages or anything acknowledging what is happening. And we are in the middle of a civil rights movement. Granted, COVID is happening, but how can you run a company that goes all over the internet talking about corporate social responsibility? My friend was talking about how she spent 2 hours talking about environmental issues, but not once did they speak about, Black Lives Matter and what's happening right now and how to really make sure that they are doing better as a company and actually implementing policies that could actually make a difference. We were on the phone together like, what? And I said, you have to say something. And she did. And it turns out that there was a lot of internal debate as to, well, if we say something about Black Lives Matter, then what about other causes? And I'm not even going to dive into this All Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter debate. If you don't know, then that's all on you. That is completely on you. But for a company that's meant to be a global institution to still have arguments about whether All Lives Matter and Black Lives Matter should be separate or should be distinct things or what is relevant and what is not, I just say, you guys should be ashamed of yourselves. So the point is to also speak up. Like when you speak up, when you see something that's wrong, even if it's not happening to a Black person, right? Because I think as human beings on the whole, you should speak up when you notice that something's wrong. If someone's being treated unfairly, speak up. If someone's being isolated, speak up. And this definitely goes for my white friends because I have been in situations where, for example, going to a club, right? And the bouncer doesn't realize that I'm with all of the white people because my friendship group is so diverse and I loved majority of them, and I've never had any issues with them directly that I know of. God knows what's happening behind closed doors, right? But I will trust that I have good friends. And I have been in those situations where the bouncer is like, yeah, no, sorry, we're full, you can't come in, to me. And then he turns around to like my white friends and he's like, oh, ladies, come in. And they've been like, what the hell? She's with us. And then I'm also like, excuse me? So you weren't going to let me in, but you were going to let them in? They also don't have any reservations. And of course, I'm happy that my friend spoke up at that point, but there's no way that I'm going to willingly walk into a club that plays Black music, will book out Black celebrities to perform, but still will not take Black people to walk in. And like, it doesn't even make any sense. So for me, it's a matter of principle at that point. I will not support that kind of establishment. And there are many organizations that are in my Black book because they are well known for doing stuff like this. I will not name any names right now, but so in those types of situations, I would definitely say that, and I've had, there's a bug like flying around. But I've had like other Black friends say to me that they've been in similar situations where their white friends have not really said anything. And when they've been upset and gone home, their white friends have still gone into the club anyway. And you're just like, that is not cool. This brings me on to my second point, which is self-care is so, so, so important. There are so many things going on in this world right now. We have COVID, we have oil spills. If you care for the environment, this is something that's really important and we all should care for the environment. We have people dying. We have like racism. There's just so much, and like I said, like I don't like to talk about racism and all of these things because look, it's just a fact of my experience. I'm a Black girl, I have to deal with it. But all of these things going on, especially about Black Lives Matter and racism, it's very triggering and we should feel that. But don't feel guilty for taking time out. You can't switch off the color of your skin, but you can take time out to just mentally like recover and just process. And you are not doing anything wrong by not saying anything all the time. You can take a moment. You can take a moment because quite frankly, we have to work. You have to function in society and you should definitely stand up for what's right. You should be vocal. But if you feel like you need a break, I feel like everyone's entitled to do that. So quite clearly, you can look at my Instagram right now and it's like not really been active because I needed to take that space. I have not been able to focus. I saw that meme that said, I don't know one Black person who's been able to sleep for the past week. And it's pretty much the same. I have clients to service, like I have work to do, and we all do our protests in our own way. So whether that is being on the front line, deep end in front of the embassy and like protesting, whether it's donating, whether it's speaking to your friends and family, all of these things count because we are bringing awareness. And I definitely feel like a shift in the consciousness as more people are aware. And this brings me on to my last point, is to reject tokenism and embrace diversity. I think this is so relevant for everybody because I know that many people are trying to do the right thing. They don't know what to say, they don't know what to do. But for me, I personally would want to be hired for my skills and not because of the color of my skin. I don't want to be your token Black employee. I don't want to be your token Black friend. I don't want to be your token anything. It doesn't matter if I'm the only one, but I don't ever want to feel like I'm just here because I'm a token. So I've been seeing a lot of things on social media about share Black businesses, follow Black content, and I definitely 150% agree with those principles. But at the same time, I would say that it's important for you to follow content creators, read books by Black authors, like diversify your life because it's really important for you to do that. But I would say do those things because you find those content or those people interesting, as opposed to because you feel guilty and you want to do a performative action, because actually it could hurt those creators more than it actually builds their profile. Like, who wants someone following them who doesn't really like their content? And the same goes for Black businesses. I think that you should support these people and you should give feedback if they are not performing properly. If they're performing excellent, give good reviews. Follow people and do things because it's the right thing to do and not because of tokenism. And I think that a lot of fashion and media companies have a lot to answer for. Because I know that when I was a teenager and modeling, I was scouted by one of the most famous modeling agencies in the UK when I was around 14. But my African mother was like, hell to the no. You have to finish school before you do any sort of like modeling and stuff. So fine, like Nigerian parents are hardcore. You don't even get a space to argue. So I remember being about 17. I was in sixth form at the time. So I decided to go back to the same agency. And they literally said to me, oh, we already have one other Black model on our book. We can't have more than that. But I see that you have this Blackanese thing going on. Yes. She said Blackanese, Black and Chinese thing going on. Are you mixed race? Maybe we can, but I don't know, you're dark skin. And I'm standing there like, am I in a twilight zone or what is this? And I remember just being like, I gave her my portfolio and then I just thought, this is not worth it. There is no way I want to be the token in your company. What? So you would only hire me because you think, oh, she looks Blackanese? I'm full African. There's no Blackanese here. And even if I was, how do you even say that? How do you say that to someone? How is that the basis of you hiring someone? You didn't ask me to walk. At the point she said this, she hadn't even looked at my portfolio. So I think when I was 14, these guys were like, oh, they had space for one Black model at the time, but then they didn't anymore. So fashion industry, guys, you need to do better. Tokenism is not something that we really should be moving forward with in 2020. I mean, the first half of 2020 is done. Leave it here. Leave it here. And also speak up in your companies. Again, I feel like this is all kind of like a circular process. But ultimately, I just wanted to speak about this and share my thoughts because it definitely did not feel right talking about diets, talking about careers. I mean, for certain people, those things are quite important. But quite frankly, for me as a Black woman right now, what I want to see is real change. And I cannot encourage people privately to speak up when I'm also not speaking up, right? I do speak up, but I have a platform and I have a platform. Like I have a YouTube channel. It's a baby channel. But the point is that even though I don't like having these types of conversations, they are things that I am very comfortable talking about in public, especially when I see that something is wrong or when something doesn't feel right. And I think that at this point, it's okay for us to talk about this and share how we feel, and because it educates everybody. I've learned so much. I'm Black and I've learned so much in the past 2.5 weeks. Guys, no one's ever going to get it right. Like, even I'm not getting it right, but I think that actually taking a step forward towards the right direction is definitely going to bring us to a space of equality where the world is lighter, because we don't even have to deal with this type of crap. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. I'm not sure what that's going to be about right now, but probably something to do with dieting or careers. And thank you guys so much for watching. We can all be better, we can all do better, and hopefully we'll get to a better place.